Okay, in this video, we're going to look at how do we actually graph these equations using both the amplitude, and the period, okay, with these. So we're going to start by first identifying those. A being the amplitude, and that is 3. As you go to graph, remember that your high value is equal to the positive of this, and your low value is equal to the opposite of that. So we got to go up 3 and down 3 as we go high and low. Your period is equal to 2 pi over b. b in this instance is 4, not 4x, but 4. And we want to simplify that. It's going to give me 1/2 pi. I've already set my graph up. I know that my high and my low have to go up 3 and -3, so I want to make sure my scale is reflecting that. And my final period here is what I always mark at the end of the fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, sine curve, this is one of the things you got to remember, is going to be starting small at your 0. So we're going to go 0, the high is 3, back to 0, low is -3, and back to 0, and join those together to get your sine curve. So that's how we do that. I start by finding my amplitude to know how high my scale needs to go on my x and y axis. I find my period so that I know what the fourth line is always going to be marked and set it out accordingly. Okay, you'll be able to graph the next couple of graphs. Okay, whenever we have an equation on a worksheet like this, finding the amplitude and the period of each sine curve below, and then we're going to write an equation. So to this, you want to make sure you kind of try to find where your y-axis is. And so that's going to be this line here. To help me find my amplitude then, I'm going to go to the center of the curve, and you're going to count how far up. Now notice, this isn't 2. The scale is to 4 to get there. So your amplitude from the x-axis up is actually 4 on this one. Your b value, remember, is the number of cycles or periods your graph makes between 0 and 2 pi. So I try to mark that off. If I count how many times it goes through a high-low cycle to come back to that, in this instance, it's 1. So b is 1. So it's asking you to write a sine curve. So we're going to do y equals 4 is the amplitude, goes in front of sine, and b is 1. So this is just going to be the 4 sine of x. Okay, let's do one more here on the right. There's my y. So this is my y-axis beginning curve. And this one's kind of hard to read, but here's your 2 pi line. Okay, that's where 2 pi is. So the scale of the lines, you always want to make them pay attention to that. 2 is the second line up from the x-axis. So through the middle here, amplitude is going to be 2. And the period, or the value of b, because the period is a lot faster, between these two lines, I've got to count how many rotations I see. So there's 1 high-low, 2, 3, and 4. That makes b 4. So your equation is 2 sine of 4x. Okay, so you're going to walk through these and kind of finish finding the values of those. I know this is a sine curve not because it's just told me to write a sine curve, but because notice where these curves begin. On the y-axis, they begin at the 0 and go high, 0, low. So if we go 0 high, we're definitely with a sine curve. The cosine curves would be starting at a high value instead of at the origin.